The last prophecy of the Delphi oracle of Pythia. This is what they don't want us to know about, and I'm translating from a Greek article. According to the history taught today, the last oracle given by the oracle of Delphi through the mouth of Pythia, the prophetess, happened in 362 AD, and the recipient of this oracle was the Emperor of Byzantium, Julian, the transgressor, who, when he decided to campaign against the Persians, sent people to ask the oracle of Delphi if he should do this campaign, if he should go against the Persians. This oracle that we all know today is the following. This is what Pythia told him. You said to the king, come on, fall down the maze, O Phoebus has a hut, the mantis laurel, the pagans were singing, unquenchable and full of water, that is. Tell the king that the ornate house has fallen to the ground, and Phoebus Apollo has no house, no laurel divination, no talking spring, and the talking water has dried up. This oracle is very false from the first to the last word, and is a Christian invention invented 700 years later by the supposed oracle, by the Byzantine chronographer and monk George Kedrinos, who lived in the late 11th and beginning of the 12th century AD. There is also the version, this is when Phoebus comes again, and he comes again to stay. That is, the day will come when Phoebus Apollo will return and stay forever. So, obviously that was a lie. Now, we know that she used to sitting on a tripod over a fissure, with vapor rising from a crack in the earth beneath her, and she would go into a frenzied state of hallucination. And there have been attempts to find scientific explanations for the Pythia inspirations, but most commonly, these fumants of vapor is referred to the observation made by Plutarch, who presided as high priest at Delphi for several years. I didn't know that. Plutarch was high priest at Delphi for several years. He stated that her oracular powers appeared to be associated with the vapors from the Kerna spring waters that flowed under the temple. It's often been suggested that these vapors may have been hallucinogenic gases. Recent geological investigations show that gas emissions from geological chasms and fissures in the earth could have inspired the Delphic oracle connect with the divine. Some researchers suggest the possibility that ethylene gas caused the Pythia state of inspiration. Traces of ethylene have been found in the waters of the Castalian spring. There's a little spring there. I've been there many times because I live in Greece, and it's on the side of a mountain. Delphi is on the side of a mountain, and just opposite the temples there's a little spring on the side. And so they found ethylene in those spring waters, which is now largely diverted for the town water supply of the town of modern-day Delphi. But Lehu argues that ethylene is impossible and benzene is crucially underdetermined. Others argue instead that methane might have been the gas emitted from the chasm, or even carbon dioxide and hydrogen sulfide, arguing that the chasm itself might have been a seismic ground rupture. Of course, because, as we said, this is on the side of a mountain, and then there's a gully, there's like a depression, as if, and on the other side, the mountain goes up again. So obviously, this is a fault line. This is an actual fault line. Now, like you see, for example, in, where would you see them? I don't know, maybe in Arizona, when you see a mountain split in two and then there's a crack in the middle. But this is a wider crack. Now, an alternative theory based on review of contemporary toxicological literature indicates that it's the oleander that causes symptoms similar to those of Pythia. Pythia used oleander as a complement during oracular procedure, chewing its leaves and inhaling their smoke. The toxic substance of oleander results in symptoms similar to those of epilepsy. The sacred disease, quote unquote, which amounted to the possession of Pythia by the spirit of Apollo, an event that made Pythia his spokesperson, subsequently his prophetess. The oleander fumes the spirit of Apollo, could have originated in a brazier located in the underground chamber and have escaped through an opening in the temple's floor. This hypothesis perfectly fits the findings of archaeological excavations that revealed an underground space under the temple, and this explanation sheds light on the alleged spirit, the chasm of Delphi, that have been the subject of intense debate and interdisciplinary research for the last hundreds of years. Now we know that, when kings of antiquity, even Alexander the Great went there to get some kind of an observation from her, and an oracle from her, and these kings used to pay a tremendous amount of money to the treasury at Delphi. It didn't come cheap. So Pythia is the name of the high priestess at the temple of Apollo, of the oracle, and from what I have read from other ancient texts, she was one of the offsprings of Noah. Pythia was one of the granddaughters of Noah after the flood, who was known as Deuskaliona in Greece. Noah, the man of good omen, Dev Kalos Ionos, the man of good omen in Greek. So this is what I wanted to tell you about. Many of the times, they were just uttering nonsensical prophecies that could go either this way or that way, but they used to get paid for them. So this is something from I'll leave a link below for you. This is from a Greek article. Of course, it's nonsense, but still, that was the last prophecy. Now, she was not the only oracle. They were known as the Sibyls, and there was another one in Dodoni, Dudun in Aramaic, in Hebrew. It's also a very usual Hebrew name, but it's also a Greek name, Dodoni, Dudun. And there were various Sibyls all over the place prophesying like this, and of course getting paid for it. This is one of the Sibyls, the Delphic Sibyl paintings by Michelangelo. This is the Delphic Sibyl. He also had in the Sistine Chapel, they're found in the Sistine Chapel, the Libyan Sibyl in the Sistine Chapel, various Sibyls. Now the Sibyls were the female prophets, the oracles in ancient Greece. The earlier Sibyls, according to the legend, prophesied at holy sites, and their prophecies were influenced by divine inspiration from a deity, originally at Delphi and Persinos. In late antiquity, various writers attested to the existence of Sibyls in Greece, Italy, the Levant, that is, of course, today's Israel, Syria, Lebanon, Asia Minor. Yes, there was a Sibyl from Libya, as the Libyan Sibyl Michelangelo has in Sistine Chapel as well. So the English word Sibyl comes from the Old French Sibyl, in Latin Sibylla, from the ancient Greek Sibilla, from Semitic etymology. The first known Greek writer to mention Sibyl is Heraclitus in the 5th century BC. The Sibyl was frenzied, mouth uttering things not to be laughed at, unadorned and unperfumed, yet reaches to 1,000 years with her voice and by aid of the god. That was what Heraclitus wrote. Specific Sibyls, the Persian Sibyl, was said to be the prophetic priestess presiding over the Apollonian oracle, and though her location remains vague enough so that she might be called the Babylonian Sibyl, the Persian Sibyl is said to have foretold the exploits of Alexander the Great before he came, and also named Sambethe. She was reported to be of the family of Noah. Okay, this is according to Wikipedia. So the Persian Sibyl was from the family of Noah. The 2nd century AD, traveler Pausanias paused at Delphi to enumerate 4 Sibyls mentioned in Hebrew, the Hebrew Sibyl, who was brought up in Palestine, named Sabe, whose father was Verosus, and her mother Erymanthi. Some say she was a Babylonian, while others called her an Egyptian Sibyl. The medieval Byzantine encyclopedia, the Suda, credits the Hebrew Sibyl as author of the Sibylline oracles. As we said, there was the Libyan Sibyl, the Delphic Sibyl. The Delphic Sibyl was a mythical woman from before the Trojan Wars of the 11th century BC, mentioned by Pausanias, writing in the 2nd century AD about stories he heard locally, and the Sibyl would have predated the real Pythia, the oracle priestess of Apollo, originating from around the 8th century BC. We have the Sumerian Sibyl, the Erythraean Sibyl, in the town of Ionia opposite Chios, one of the islands of the North Aegean. We have the Samian Sibyl in Samos, Greece, the Cumaean Sibyl, the Sibyl who was most concerned the Romans was a Cumaean Sibyl located near the Greek city of Naples. So Naples was a Greek city. Then we have the Hellespont Sibyl, which is near where Istanbul is today. The Pyrgian Sibyl is the most well known for being conflated with Cassandra, Priam's daughter of Homer's Iliad. And Turbintine Sibyl, the classical Sibyls of the Greeks and Romans added the 10th, the Turbintine Sibyl, whose seat was the ancient Sabino-Latin town of Tibur, or modern-day Tivoli. And we have them in Renaissance art and literature as well. And of course, the beautiful paintings in the Sistine Chapel by Michelangelo of the various Sibyls of the ancient world. I don't know why they were in there. So this, I'll leave a link below for you for this, about the Sibyls. And as we said before, the one from Persia was reported to be of the family of Noah, of the Great Flood. Thank you for your support. I hope you found this interesting.